Existentialism and Absurdism by Aaryan Harshith, June 20th, 2021. If you're anyone anywhere, chances are you think your life has some sort of meaning. Or at least that's what I hope you think. Maybe you're struggling to articulate it well right now, but I'm almost certain there's some main goals you have. There's things you absolutely want to get done for yourself or for the people around you before you die. Humans are meaning-making machines. It's part of our job description. But here's the issue. Our minds value meaning so much that they'll settle for any meaning to get us by, even if it's just an illusion. In one of his most iconic statements, early 20th century philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre once said, "Existence precedes essence." In other words, we think we have a purpose, but we really don't. At least, we don't have a purpose to begin with. So let's try dissecting what that could mean. Think of a bookshelf. Now, if I asked you what a bookshelf was made to do, the answer would be obvious, almost annoyingly obvious, to hold and to store books. Now, regardless of the specific bookshelf we're talking about, or even what it looks like, that's its main function. Key insight: if a bookshelf couldn't hold books anymore, it wouldn't be a bookshelf. Essence is what something, or someone for that matter, exists for. And in this case, a bookshelf exists to hold books. See the difference? When it comes to basically any object and most basic forms of life, essence happens right after you create the bookshelf, or right after a bacteria or something else divides. Right when you bring it into existence, it's there all along. And yet, we don't. Humans don't have a predefined purpose, at least by default. And that's the main idea behind the school of philosophy called existentialism. Existence comes before essence. There's a good 7 billion of us that exist, but many of us don't have an inherent reason to exist. It doesn't seem like anyone created us with anything in mind, really. And if they did, they might have forgotten to press the send button or something. After all, when we were cavemen, meaning wasn't really a huge worry. We lived to be about 30 or 35 on the high end, and the only thing remotely close to a meaning we could afford to have was maybe to survive the rhinos and tigers all around us and have kids in the future. That was it. But since then, humans became the first animal to get past Earth's survival mode. In other words, we're in uncharted territory. And considering you're watching this video right now, it means you're in the same boat too. Survival is a non-issue. A few hundred years ago or so, our meaning came from God, which was actually pretty useful since God gave people a DIY meaning in a box with the idea of heaven and hell and everything in between. But today, most people in the developed world believe in science as the only source of truth. It's just that it's pretty depressing. No more God, no more inherent meaning as to why we exist, and most importantly of all, no more easy way of getting meaning. With our minds, there's very little we can't do. Our meaning can change. And not only that, but we, or at least most of us, get to choose our meaning. For one, that's a pretty awesome privilege, but it's also a pretty big ask. With all the freedom to do basically whatever we want in life, that might be too much freedom. What do we do, and why do we do it? When I say meaning, It really has nothing to do with what job you want or what you're interested in. It's much more general and much deeper than just what you get paid for. So think about it this way. If survival was taken care of, which it probably is for you right now, and if money was also taken care of, so just pretend that's the case for now, what would be the overall theme of the things you'd spend your time on? Would you, for example, focus on following your curiosity, maybe helping others or talking to people or some insane combination of all three? I don't know. But whatever it is, just know that it can't be something like, I want to be XYZ, I want to make XYZ, or I want to see XYZ. If you watched my last video on moral relativism, you heard me say good and bad are basically more societal constructs than anything. So I'll watch what I say here. A really useful, and just note this, not good, but useful way of understanding what matters to you, aka your personal meaning, is actually by analyzing what doesn't matter to you first. So think of who you are and define it in a single sentence. And no, saying I am a human doesn't work. What makes you unique as a human? Have it? Now, imagine you didn't have that anymore. If it was your job working at a bank or software company, that's gone. If it was the thing you're interested in, it doesn't even exist anymore. Forget about it. Now, with how we understand meaning, would that change your personal essence? If those things you cared about just disappeared one day, would that be devastating? Would it fundamentally change you, just like how a bookshelf that can't hold books isn't a bookshelf anymore? Using a little bit of imagination, it doesn't take a lot of time to see that any definition of meaning that has a goal or another person or an object attached to it isn't really meaningful at all. Now, as for what does matter to you, I can't tell you the answer to that. It's your meaning for a reason. And for all it's worth, maybe it is your job, or it is the thing you're interested in. The exact definition of your meaning doesn't matter as much as having considered all your options before making a decision. Remember that. And the last thing I'll mention today is this. Our lives are limited. Wandering around with no sense of direction is no way to spend such a valuable resource like that. That's why meaning is everything. And so the question you, and only you, can answer is what that is. Next time on the On My Own podcast, we'll be discussing if the room to make this huge choice about meaning even exists in the first place. We'll be answering an ethical dilemma, but from many different views at once. So stay tuned and stay curious. Good night.